Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unseen Perspectives. I'm Brie.
And I'm Kaylynn.
And today we're going to be talking about guide dogs. Yes, once again. So, we did a part one. If you haven't seen it, we'll link the video below. We're going to do part two, and we're going to talk about this time. We're going to talk about the legal aspect, but also etiquette and those kinds of things. It's very important. I just want to start off. I think it's really funny. I don't think Kaylynn thinks it's very funny. But last video in part one, I said rough a lot. Like, oh, it was really rough. And then I realized we're talking about dogs. Ha ha ha. Hello. That's funny. Anywho, moving on. So, I talked about it a little bit, like briefly in part one. Just the legal stuff, how my dog's a service animal. She is allowed everywhere. Restaurants can't be like, oh, she's not allowed here.
Yeah, there are some places that service dogs aren't allowed, like sterile environments.
Yeah, if it's anything like causing harm to them, obviously they're not allowed.
Or other people.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. There's very few environments where they are not allowed.
Yeah. So, since Candy, my guide dog, is a service animal, since she guides me, she's allowed everywhere. She's not an emotional support animal. I mean, she is, but she's also a service animal. And so, since I use her to guide me and to protect me and to walk, she is allowed everywhere. In restaurants, they can't be like, oh, people are allergic. Well, too bad. And I think they're not even allowed to ask really what it's for. Like, people are not really allowed to ask that. But if they do ask, tell them if it's not obvious. Sometimes it's a little obvious, but people don't know that. It's so funny because I feel like I tell people I'm blind and they're like, what? Really? Like, I'm like a celebrity or something. Like, it only happens in movies that people are disabled. I don't know. You've never had that experience?
No.
Really?
No.
Someone like the other day in class, she was like walking with me. She's like, oh, your dog's so cute. And she's like, what's it for? And I was like, oh, I'm blind. I can't see. And she's like, oh my gosh, really? It happened like another time too.
I've had people like just be ignorant about it. So I had one lady ask me, what's the stick for? Which I get a lot. And then I told her, I was like, oh, I'm blind. And she goes, me too.
Oh my god. It's so funny because people do say they're like, I'm blind, and they're like, oh, sorry, and I'm like, I don't care.
People don't even say they're sorry, and that really pisses me off when I'm in a group and somebody's like, oh, I'm so blind, I can't read this, and I'm sitting right there. Like, really?
Well, me, I think it's funny because sometimes they're like, sorry, or like even like I'm in a sorority and some of them are like, sorry, I'm blind, and I was like, hello, thank you, and they're like, oh, sorry, and I was because I know like people just like say it, so I'm just like, okay, whatever. But anyway, back to the guide dog situation. Legally, yeah. So actually, I don't know. Do you think that I'm sure that the other schools do like legal lectures, right?
I think all of them do,
yeah. Yeah, okay. So if you're just joining in and you didn't see part one we talked about how guide dog schools are all over the country, or all over the world, I guess. And yeah, so you go for a couple weeks, if depending on the school, and you go, they have lectures, they train, all those kinds of things. But anyhow, so yeah, one of the big things is, because I've heard from people who've had guide dogs previously, how they're like, one of the downsides is Uber. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so when I was there, especially the college kids, that was like our main question was like Uber, like, regarding that. And they're like, no, they're not allowed to do that. Like, they're not allowed to deny you because you have a service animal. And I was like, okay, interesting. And so I obviously, I don't know. This is my first dog. I don't know how to do the Uber situation. So I was asking like a couple people who've had dogs previously. And I was like, what do you do? Like, because you don't have to write down you have a service animal. Like, you don't have to say that. It doesn't have to be that way. So I asked like a couple people, and some of them are like, oh yeah, I say it, just so they know, or something like that. And then and I talked to another guy, and he's like, oh, I don't put it. And it's only been like maybe like 3 times where I think he said 3 times in 10 years where someone like
Really?
denied him.
Because we've had that happen a lot more.
Yeah, but like, I think they come up to the thing, or the Uber comes up to them, like pulls up to them, and then you're like, oh, I'm blind, I have a guide dog, and they're like, okay. Like, some of them are like, okay. Some of them are pissed, but like, they're not allowed to do that.
But there's been so many times where we've been taking Uber or Lyft, and they pull up, see the dog, and they're like, nope, canceling the ride, goodbye.
Well, yeah, but then you can report them. I don't know why we haven't reported them. Like, that happened one time. Once I know I'm right, like, you're not going down. Like, I know I'm right. Yeah. So I know the whole time, like, you can't deny someone who's blind and has a service animal because they have a dog. It's illegal. They're not allowed to do that. I think that applies to everyone and everything else, like restaurants. Why can I only think of restaurants? Like restaurants, stores, all those kinds of things. But yeah, my parents and I, we were at the airport, and we didn't put that we had a service animal because we don't have to. And the guy came up and he's like, "Oh, you have a dog?" Like, no, I can't. And he was speaking Spanish, and I was like, "No, you're not. Like, you're not really allowed to do that." And when they were doing the legal like lecture, they're like, "Please don't get in the car if they keep saying no." Like, obviously, I'm not gonna get in the car. Like, don't keep like fighting to go in the like for them to take you. So I just like explained the thing, and I said, okay, I'm not allowed to do that. He's like, no dog, no dog. And I'm like, okay, I'll report you, but thank you, bye. And so we did, because you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, so that was interesting. So because the really stood out to me was like 3 times in 10 years. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I think there's times where like, I think that happened with you, where they pulled up and they're like, oh, you have a dog? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, you didn't write that on the thing. And I was like, oh, no, I don't have to. And I remember you were like, this is Brie's thing. You're like taking away, like you were sort of like, oh, this is her thing. And so I was like, yeah, no, can't do that. So I started doing that. So also, since she's a service animal, people are not allowed, like, a disability, ADA, all those kinds of things are not allowed to ask for, like, paperwork from her. Like, oh, I need proof that she's a service. Like, they're not really allowed to do that. Like, all they ask for is the rabies, you know, obviously to make sure everyone's safe. And, like, that happened in ADA at one time. They were like, one of the ladies was like, oh, no, she's a service animal, right? And I'm like, yeah. And the other girl was like, we need an emotional support, documentation, all this stuff. And then the other one was like, no, she's a service animal. She needs the rabies, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's all you guys should need. So, yeah. And, like, no one's allowed to, like, deny her from, like, being here. Like, no one's allowed to be like, oh, no, she can't be here. And actually, going back to the Uber thing, I remember my aunt was like, what happens if, like, the Uber driver or someone's, like, allergic? And I was like, well, too bad. But obviously, if you're dead, you know, we've got that a few times where they said that they were allergic. Who knows if they're being for real. But, like, obviously, we understand that. But at the same time, like, it's every right for me to have my dog to go everywhere with me and not be denied. So that's why I don't put it, because I know I heard a story. This guy, he was blind, and he was trying to get to to catch his flight, and it was like 8 Ubers in a row, like, kept denying him because he put that he had a guide dog. Because I think once they see that, they're like, oh no, I don't want a dead dog in my car. I mean, obviously, but it's like, no, this is like, they're right, you know?
Yeah, I'll just put it like, if we're trying to get somewhere fast, then almost in a way, like when I'm riding with you, I will put that, because then like they can check that and either be cool with it and come, or cancel it right then, which is better than them getting there and then being like, I'm not doing this, because I get irritated after a couple times.
That's true. That is true, but it's also like, there's no way that there's 3 people that are dead. I mean, maybe there is possibility, like, allergic.
But wouldn't you rather know before they get there than have them cancel it when they get there?
No, because I feel like they're going to see that even if they're not allergic and be like, oh no, I don't want a dog, she'll get someone else. And then it happens 17 more times. But anyhow, so that's my thoughts on the whole Uber situation. Also, with the whole legal thing, they were talking about apartments. And obviously, some apartments don't allow animals or dogs or yada, yada, yada. But they were even saying, like, no, like a landlord could be like, oh, no, it's a dog. And we're like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a service animal. She's allowed to be here because she guides me. Like, it's just, people don't understand. It's a totally different thing than an emotional support animal. Not that it's like that much, I'm not saying like they're both like a service animal is so much more important and yada yada yada. I'm just saying like she's legally supposed to be with me. And there's no like legal way for you to be like, oh no, and like deny us. And if they did, you report them, you know, go from there. There was a story, I don't know if you heard about it, but they were talking about it at the Seeing Eye when we were doing this lecture. And I was actually talking to one of my professors about it because I thought it was interesting. But I guess there was this case, I think in North Carolina, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe a lot longer, I don't know. And he went to a store, and some sort of store, I think, something like that. And he had his guide dog with him, and they were like, oh no, it might have been the bank, actually. I don't know, who knows. But they were like, oh no, the dog can't be here. And he was like, no, this is my right. This is my dog. And this is my guide dog. And they're like, no, we don't allow pets. And they just kept saying that, and he like was not leaving, and then they ended up calling the police and saying that he was trespassing or something like trespassing.
Won that fight, right?
Huh?
Did he win that fight? The police were like,
I think he called I don't know how it ended, to be honest, but I think they called the police, and the police showed up. Oh, actually, yeah, I think the police showed up. It was like, no, but even police officers, I think that's what they were saying. They don't know. And so that's why I think they were using, no, actually, I don't know if he won. But, or I don't even know if it got further into like the law with all that stuff. Like, I don't know if it went to court. I don't know what happened after that. But I think the police came and they were not educated on a guide dog and the legal rights of it. That's what happened. And so that's what they were saying. The lawyer who did the lecture definitely knew who she was talking about in the Seeing Eye. She was saying, like, everyone, like, download, I guess, the Seeing Eye app. I forgot what it was, but it's some sort of app. And you can click, like, what state you're in. And then you could see all the legal things. So they were just like, just in case, have it on your phone. So if this happens and the police come and they have no idea and they're not educated in all this stuff, like, have it handy to show them, like, nope, this is my right. Look, Florida, nope, can't do that. And like, I wonder, is the leash law like only in Florida or certain states?
I think that's in a lot of states.
Okay, well, there's a leash law, if you're not aware, that a dog has to be on a leash in public places because obviously with the tax and stuff like that. Just to protect, like, my dog is a service animal. She needs to be protected. If anything happens to her, it's like a big deal, obviously. I don't even know what you would do if she was like injured. I don't know. But yeah, isn't that crazy with the guy? Like, they called for trespassing because he wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah. Anyway, I don't know when that was, but that was a while ago. But that actually not something like that, but sort of something like that, not as severe, obviously. It's just because people are not educated on the legal rights, but also like me and you, we don't look blind, so sometimes people don't understand. I don't know. I was actually at Chick-fil-A with couple of my friends. Something with sorority. We're doing like a hangout, whatever. So we were there, and I sat down. I got my food, whatever. I sat down, and this guy came up to me, and I feel like he was like. I always say he was like a 12-year-old boy, but obviously he wasn't 12, but he just like was like so young. And he came up to me and he's like, oh, you can't have we can't have animals in here. We recommend you go outside. And I was like, no, she's a service animal. She can, no. And he was like, no, but we really recommend you go outside. We can't have animals in here just because something happened, something like that. And I was like, no, she's a service animal. Like, you legally can't do that. And then, like, he went back and forth a couple times. And I was like, that's what they taught me at the legal lecture is like, okay, ask for the supervisor. So I did. So it's like, who's the supervisor? And he's like, me. And I'm like, you're like 12 years old. What do you mean you're the supervisor? But whatever. And I was like, okay, well, you're not allowed to do that. It's illegal. And I'm like, I will show you her card. Because they give us a card just for identification, just in case. go out of the country, stuff like that. And so I showed him, I was like, here, I will call the school. I don't know why I said I'll call the school. Like, he knows what I'm talking about. But I was like, I'll call the school. Like, I was just pissed. I honestly felt like Rosa Parks. So I was like, I'm not leaving. Like, I was just like, this is illegal. This is not okay. And so I, like, showed him the card. And I think, so I was talking to someone. And then I think he thought it was an emotional support animal. And it wasn't, like, a fully trained service animal that knew it. You know what I mean? And I think he saw the card, and I think he saw Seeing Eye on it, like Seeing Eye Dog and like all that stuff. And he like automatically went, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Yeah, you should be." And and then he left, and then he walked away. And then, but I was like so pissed. I mean, obviously, now one of my friends, someone mentioned like I think it's because he didn't realize it was like an actually trained service animal. Probably thought it was just an emotional support animal. But I was just like annoyed. I was like, no. And like I'm so glad that they gave the legal lecture, obviously, because I probably wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have known that much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fun experience. Yeah. So another thing, going back to the restaurants, like they're also not allowed to be like, okay, it's a dog, you have to be outside. No. No, it doesn't work that way. I can be inside with my dog. Like, there's just certain things that I think if I didn't have this lecture, I wouldn't know. Because I probably would be like, okay, yeah, like, but I was like, no, she's, that kind of thing. But I think most places know, others don't. Yeah. Have you had any, like, stories about, like, illegal stuff? Like people are like, oh, no, they can't be here, or not really?
Not that I know of, no.
Yeah, she's allowed everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure other schools do it, but with the little experience that I've had, I didn't get a specific lecture like that. I don't believe, but that's probably because I was only in the very beginning of everything. So
yeah, and like it happened somewhere, and I was like in the back patio, and they were like with my dog. I was with Candy, and they were like, "Oh no, you can't be like the dog's not allowed to be out here." And I was like, "No, it doesn't work that way." And I'm always like really defensive because I get and really annoyed because I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Because I think to me, the same thing. Like, I don't think when you're not blind, you don't understand. But then when you're blind, it's like, how do you not get it? And I was just like, no, it doesn't work that way. She's trained. She's good. Like, she guides me. She's not just, like, here for emotional support. Even though, I remember we were talking about a couple years ago. Like, me, you, and my mom, we were talking about how people take advantage of the emotional support on planes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's frustrating, especially when you have a service animal, because for legal reasons you need her, and some people take advantage, and it's frustrating because we live in an apartment here on campus, and there's a bunch of dogs, which I'm sure a lot of them have every right to be there, of course, but like it's just they bark at her, and it's just like this, like, what?
Yeah. You had asked if I had heard any stories, and that just reminded me. I heard one the other day of a blind man on a plane, and there was somebody with the emotional support dog who was sitting next to him and made it like a big deal. So then that person had to switch seats with a big influencer. I think she's like a nurse. And so anyway, she was able to connect with him. Turns out he's the owner of a big tech company. Like, he's a Microsoft designer.
Who, the blind guy?
Yes. He designs accessible technology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But anyway, it was a big deal because this lady with her emotional support dog didn't want to sit next to the guide dog and was trying to get the guide dog to move, and
that's crazy. Yeah. See, like, there's certain things like that where I'm not like gonna say, oh, the guide dog's more important, but I mean, sometimes it is. Like, sometimes this is like I need them to guide me, to protect me, to like help me move. And I'm not saying, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like anything bad about the emotional support, because I totally understand, but it's a legal situation. Yeah.
I wonder how it's different here in Florida too, because you just mentioned protection, and certain states allow personal protection dogs and some don't. Yeah. Florida is one of the states that does. And so obviously they're trained, like when to versus when not to be aggressive. But I wonder if anyone's ever had an issue with a guide dog versus a personal protection dog.
Kaylynn and I are going to sort of go into the etiquette because that's an important one. That's a big one. This is how to like interact with someone who has a guide dog. Yeah. Do you want to go into a little bit more?
Sure. I'm sure you would be better at it saying that you have one. But there's obviously a way to interact with someone that has a guide dog and then ways to not. So, like, don't distract the guide dog while it's working. And Brie has stories of how this has actually affected her. Would you like to share any of those?
So, okay. So let me like explain it a little bit. Because a lot of people, I had to explain it to my sorority because understandably they didn't understand what I was saying, or like what it meant with the guide dog, when not to touch her, when to touch her, all that kind of stuff. So she has a harness, and then that means she knows she's working. Connected to the harness is her like a handle, and that handle is what I use for her to guide me. So when the harness is on her, she's working. And that means I still have the leash on her, and that way, like, people can guide me, but she's still working, so people can't touch her. And then when I have the handle, or the handle's already connected, when I use it and no one else is guiding me but her, she is still working. And that's been when it's been rough because she's guiding me. People are trying to say hi to her. People are calling out to her. This happened. This is probably the story that Caitlin's talking about. It was pretty big. So I was walking on the sidewalk, and I was getting near like the truncated domes. If you guys don't know, that's the yellow bump dots. We've been over that, but just in case. And I was getting ready to go up to it, and someone started saying, "Candy, Candy," like yelling from I don't even know where, and just Candy, Candy. And that is so dangerous because she is guiding me and someone is calling out to her, and she's probably looking at them. She's not paying attention, totally knocks her out of her game. She's not locked in anymore. She's just completely unfocused, and it really distracts her. And that's why, like, a lot of dogs from other schools, I guess they give it to them, I don't know, but it says do not pet when they have the harness on. And that's because if you start petting the dog, it's gonna be distracted, and this is guiding someone who's blind, so it's very dangerous if someone starts petting her or petting the dog, the guide dog, when it's working, because like, hello, it's in the zone. And people don't understand, but once you explain it to them, I think people start to understand, obviously. But it's just like if you're calling out, like, Candy can't, like, it's just, especially when you're about to cross the street, like, we were about to cross the street, and this is when she needs to be locked into the max and listening to me, and now someone's calling out to her, and she's looking around, like, trying to figure, all that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a big one.
But I think it's like with anything else we've talked about where we've really emphasized asking questions.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. If you don't know whether it's an appropriate behavior or not, ask the handler, and that way they can tell you.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of people are like, some people just like touch her. Like Kaylynn and I, we've been places, and people just automatically touch her. And to me, I think it's strange and bizarre, because even if she wasn't a working dog, if she was just a regular dog, like, wouldn't you, I think it's like common courtesy to just ask, like, if you could pet the dog. But I don't know, some people don't work that way. So a lot of people just go and like start petting her, and obviously I can't see, and I'm just like like, I don't even know until like it's I don't know, there's certain times where I sort of feel like I sort of get it, sort of don't, I don't know. But that's why I love when like people are ask, they're like, "Oh, can I pet her?" And I'm just like, "No, like, she's working actually," and they're like, "Oh, okay," and then we move on with our lives. But there's a time and a place where you can pet the dog, where you can, but and when the harness is on her, she's in the zone. Like, don't touch her, don't yell for her, don't, try to call like her attention off of what she's doing, because she is working. Her eyes are focused in, and then if not, she's looking everywhere else.
Yeah. I think another thing people try to do too is feed them. Like, I've heard a lot of people talking about other people trying to feed their dog.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I told you the story. Maybe I did. But at the Seeing Eye, I was walking. We do this thing called a country walk. And this is at the Seeing Eye. They train us on country walk. And this means like residential areas, places where they don't have sidewalks and it's just sort of like a street situation. So we were doing that, and we were in a residential area. I was walking with me. I had 2 trainers, but they were like trainers in training. Ha ha ha. Anyway, trainers in training. So we had another like fully trained trainer just to like watch them do it, but he like sort of like sat in the back, like sort of was behind us, wasn't really talking. So we were all just walking. My trainers to be trainers were training and helping me, and we were just walking with Candy, and this like truck, it's like a garbage truck situation. I guess the guy that does the garbage all around the resident area, I don't know. And so he was driving by, and he threw like without saying anything, so I didn't know what was going on. He threw like a milk bone at her.
Oh my!
He just threw it out the window, and I thought they were saying, they said, "Oh my gosh, he just threw a milk bone." Or so, no, I think they said he just threw a treat at Candy, and I thought they were saying tree. And so it's like they threw a tree at my dog, and they're like, no, treat. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the guy who I was saying that was like a fully trained trainer, he like came up to me, like, and he barely talks during the sessions because he wants the other trainers to do it, and he's like, I have never seen that in my 10 years of doing this. Like, I've never seen that happen. He just like threw a treat at my dog, and like she's working, and I was sort of thinking like he probably like he's in a residential area, he probably does it to all the dogs around there, who knows. But like it was just like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. Yeah, that's the only experience I've had.
Did she take the treat?
Yeah, she was trying to eat it. I mean, they took it away before she got it, but
yeah,
she's a lab. She loves every single food she can get.
Yeah. So one of the reasons it's important not to do that is because guide dogs have a strict diet, especially if it's not a school that uses praise as much and it's a school that uses food incentives. Those dogs are on a heavy restrictive diet because they're already getting so much kibble or treats in a day. It's very important to maintain a healthy weight for their working life. And so you don't know if what you're feeding them, like how that's going to impact their health.
Yeah, and like sometimes like I'm at like with my grandma, my aunt, the people that I don't really live in my house with, that I don't really know, and they're like, oh, can we give her like the rest of the food on like the plate? People want to like give it, and I'm like, no. And people are like, oh, she doesn't get treats. I'm like, only when I do. Actually, that's what I think we didn't talk about, but I'll get into it after I say this thing. That they were like, oh, can we give her like the rest of the eggs or rest of the whatever? And I was like, no. And they were like, why not? Like, they're just like sad. Like, they're not sad, but they were just like, why not? And I was like, because she's a working dog. She's on a strict diet. If I continue to give her food, it's going to be heavy on her joints because she's going to gain weight. She's not going to be able to work as long. I didn't go through all this training and connect with my dog so much for her working life to be so short. And this actually happened with one of my parents' friends, who's like a big dog lover. And she was like, oh, does she not get treats? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh, like she made me like really like sad, like guilty. And she's like, oh, why not? She's so cute, like all this stuff. And I was like, no, she's a working dog. She gets treats only when we do the clicker method, which I explained to her, which I'll explain in a second. And I was just like, no, she's a working dog. If she has too many food, she gains weight, and then yeah, no. I want her to work as long as she can, obviously. But the clicker method, Do you know, like, other schools doing it? Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think most schools use the clicker method, although
Yeah.
I think the difference is whether they continue treat-based reinforcement versus praise-based
Yeah.
reinforcement,
So,
or
like,
negative, yeah.
my school, if you didn't watch part one, the seeing eye does all praise. So, whenever something good, she does something good girl, yada, yada, yada. They don't do a treat. But they do a thing called the clicker method. And this was actually, they did a lecture. Okay. So, like I was saying, the lecture that they do, but the clicker method, it was optional actually for people who, I guess some people are against it. I don't know. Maybe it's treats. Who knows? Um, but the clicker method is how we do it. I don't know if it's different at other schools, but we have a pouch and it has a bunch of like treats in it, like kibble. And in that pouch, it has like the thing you put on your wrist and you like click it. And then like it's like a magnet, but it's a bell. And it has like a magnet on it or like one of those like tactile things. You put like a patch, like that kind of thing. So you could like stick it wherever. And this is when you want to like target something. So I do it if I want to go to a certain room. So I'll do it like that. You could do it for chair. I used to do it with chairs. You could do it anywhere. Any like target that you want like your dog to go to. So my dog loves food, so I put the bell on like the wall already, and she's already like hitting it with her nose. Like, and I'm like, no, 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 we haven't even started yet, because she knows what's coming, and so I have to like walk a couple feet away because my dog's like that. Anyway, so then I'll say candy. So with the clicker method, I put the bell on the thing, and then I'll say candy, Zook. And Zook, I think it's find in like German, I think. And I think I was telling one of my other friends about it. I guess like a while ago, a long time ago, they would say, oh, like they would say the dog's name and like fine, fine, and people would do the clicker method and keep saying fine, and then people would come up to them and be like, what fine? What do you need help finding? Like they like didn't like totally distracted the whole situation. But anyway, so we say Candy Zook, and then she will go hit the bell with her nose. I click the clicker, and then I give her a treat. And it was so funny because when they were giving us like the clicker pouch, they're like, whatever you do, do not click it. Do not click it. Because they know like what's going to come. And then it teases them and it's not really nice. But yeah, so then I do that a couple more times and I go back and then I continue to say candy, Zook, yada yada. Do that a couple more times, click, treat, walk a little further, and then then I start to put a name to it, and that's when it gets fun because I can name it anything I want. So like if it's a chair, I could say throne. I could say, I could say like whatever I want. I could say class. I could say whatever word and just make it like fun. And so I could do that, and then I'll start having that and put like the Zook with it, and then start doing the whole thing again with the click, the bell, the click, the treat, yada yada yada. And then eventually I take the bell out. Then I do it. I tell her to like candy Zook or go to the thing with the word. She finds whatever she is. I look to see if she did it, and then I give her the treat or click treat, blah blah blah. Do the same thing all over again. Then I take away the clicking thing, and I take away the treats, and that's when she gets. That's when you have to like praise her like crazy because you have to replace the praise with the treats because my school doesn't do the treats the whole time. So that's when you have to like make a big deal and do like a praise party. So then she'll know, what it is. And then so the next time you like go, like I've been doing, like I did it for one of my classes. And so now I like say it, I'm like, class, Zook, and she'll go to it. Obviously, you still have to know your orientation, but it's pretty cool.
No, it's amazing how
it's
dogs
really
can
cool.
be conditioned
it's so
and
cute.
trained.
It's really cute too. Anyway, but yes, like Kaylynn was saying, they can be conditioned and trained in patterns and understand like, okay, this is what this means, stuff like that, and it's really cool. I think the etiquette thing, it's important to like ask. Of course, it's important to ask. It's important to, for clarification because you don't want to pet a working dog. You don't want especially when she's guiding me. You don't want to give like treats. You don't want to just feed them. You don't want to like, service animals, guide dogs, they have certain like rules, restrictions, stuff that they have to go by. So it's just because like she's a dog, she's a service animal. I can't just treat her like a regular pet. And that's the thing they were saying, like at the Sing Island when we got there, they're like, this is not a pet. This is a service animal. Like, it's a service animal. It's not a pet. You can't just play with them all the time. I mean, obviously play with them and hang out with them. But don't just, like, not work it. You know what I mean? Like, don't just not work it and just use it as a pet and it's just in your house all day. Like, can't do that. One of the things they were saying is that you can't, like, get really too someone can't get too close to, like, the dog. And I described this a little bit briefly in part 1. But, that was a big thing, because if someone gets too close to her and is like petting her all the time, giving her treats, like if someone like other than me is giving her treats and all this stuff, who's she gonna go to? The person that gives her food, obviously. So that's why that's like another thing, because it was really important in the beginning, especially in the beginning, that like she didn't see other people giving her water or like other stuff like that. And like I went on a trip and like my family's very like loving and nurturing and they love animals, so they were just like, oh, like empty water bowl, empty bowl, more water, and stuff like that. And I was like, no, you can't let her see you. And so just stuff like that. And they are dogs, but they're service animals. And this happened. This happened one time with me and someone else, but Candy went and was eating someone else's, like another dog's food, because the door was open, and we went back and forth. And I think a lot of people don't understand this, that just because she's a service animal doesn't mean that she's still, even though I said she's a dog and she's a service animal, but they're a dog at the end of the day. They're not a pet. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that they are a dog. They are going to take advantage when they want to, when they can. And it was so funny because they were actually saying, like, in the Sing Eye, they're like, once they, like, start to understand that you can't see, they're going to take advantage. And Candy loves food. So, of course, she's going to go smell and go. And she's really smart, so she'll do that. And I had, like, a couple other people, and they were like, no, like, it is a service animal. She should be trained not to go into the room. And I'm like, a dog could be a perfectly trained service animal, and it's still going to take advantage.
It's not a perfectly working machine.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't understand that, and it's really frustrating, because I'm like she's an amazing service animal, but it's still like she is a dog. Like they were saying, like even they were saying, like, oh, like one of the lectures was, when you go back, make sure. They scared me to death when I was there, because they were like saying all these things that I was like, oh my gosh. But they were like, don't, like, if you have laundry, make sure it's covered or it's up high. Make sure the trash is not on the floor. Like all these little things that happen like in the house, like they were just like, make sure this doesn't happen, all this stuff. And like as I like got to lived with Candy, like days went on, weeks went on, months went on, like I understood my dog. I understood what she does. I understood what she likes. Like she loves socks, so clearly I have to hide that. But like I know my dog, she's a good dog, but there's certain things, other dogs are different. But they were just saying, like in general, to like make sure like they don't do a like choke or whatever it is. But they were like, they can only have like these bones called Benny bones, because they're good with their teeth, and they can't. Make sure you watch them with the stuffed animal. Like they were just like really big on all that, which is true. And they gave us just, but that's what I'm saying. Like even the thing with the laundry, like they're still dogs, so you have to like do those precautions in order to protect the dog. So like if the door is wide open and has food, like it's still not gonna just not go in it. Like it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think they say that dogs, like, on average, have the same intelligence as a toddler. So think of all the things you would need to do to protect a toddler.
That's actually really true. Yeah, and it's just a lot of people don't understand that, and I don't know why. I don't know. But I guess maybe people don't, like, think about it, like, fully, because they're just like, oh, service animal should be trained. Like, she is trained. She's still a dog. Yeah, so it is a fully trained service animal, but at the end of the day, it's a dog. So, yeah. I hope that this podcast and this episode is a little more informative with what to do, what not to do, like Kaylynn said in the beginning, with the legal stuff as well. I think that's really important. I think the Uber thing is very interesting, to be honest. But, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, if you guys made it this far. Again, if you didn't see part 1, we'll have the link below. Yeah, so thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.